All right, everybody. Welcome to the Better Than Before podcast. It's the first episode here with absolute someone that's fantastic and more suiting than ever to be the first listener or guest on the podcast, and it's Nicky Allegretti. Nick, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself?
Yeah, Nicky Allegretti. Appreciate you having me on, Jake. Current offensive lineman for the Kansas City Chiefs, and grew up in Frankfort, lived here my whole life, went to Lincoln East, went to University of Illinois, so been local my whole life, and happy to be back for a little bit.
Yeah, and when it comes to how Nick and I met each other, we both grew up in Yankee Ridge. I still think it's one of the most famous, or I should say infamous athlete neighborhoods in this town, because from a list from Timmy Handerhan when we were growing up, we played at Northwestern. Mike Parrish. Who else?
Ryan Hickey.
The Hickey family.
The whole Hickey family, yeah.
Lisons played football too. And just a host of
people.
Just
a bunch of athletes.
Yep, and then even Nick and I both hit our times. Obviously, I played football at Miami, and then Nick kind of put us all to shame going to, well, obviously starting out at Lincoln East and then going all the way up through the ranks there. So how would you say going through Lincoln Way to U of I to NFL, how has that progression, what's been the biggest shocker, or like just going through that progression like that?
I'll say the one really convenient thing is, playing for Coach Z at Lincoln Way East. Very professional program. It's high school, but we run it really just like a college program. So when I got to college, there really was no shock. Practice is on a period system. We watch film, intently and often, and so that was nice, not having to. College was still a shock in terms of the physicality, the speed. Right. And then at Illinois, playing for Coach Smith, was run just like an NFL program. So it kind of was nice that before each step, I had a little bit of a taste of it. So was pretty good, upbringing.
Well, it's interesting because a lot of people that graduate from Lincoln Way East, they always say our programs ran like a college, right? And that's a test to how the coaching staff has ran it for such a long time. But then also, it's now, I think, being more of a highlight for colleges to come back and be like, oh my gosh, anyone that plays here can just fit into a role here right away.
Yeah, and I think that's something that, Coach Z's done a tremendous job over, his 20 years building Lincoln Way East. And it's college coaches, they just love coming back to East because if there's a player that they identify that has the talent, the ability, and the work ethic, they know that there's not going to be problems off the field. Right. They know how to practice. Right. They know how to work in the weight room. They know how to watch film. So having guys like that, it's like there's just such little risk taking a guy from Lincoln Way East, so they love coming back.
Bingo. And like what you've noticed now, we've addressed that high school to college. Now college, you bust your butt training for the NFL Combine, did your pro day, and you did that jumping to the NFL. How has the intensity or your change of mentality, how has that changed?
Kind of just the biggest thing is high school football, you're playing a sport. You're going to school. It's an extracurricular, really. It's a little bit more with Z's program, but that's how you can look at it. College is, you're getting, potentially school paid for, room and board paid for, so it's a little bit of a job. There's more of a sense of responsibility, and then really at the NFL, it's a job. It's, the guys kind of caught me off guard when they would just talk about it and say like, I think I'm gonna go grab coffee before I had to work, and it's like, what do you mean work? I in college I say the stadium, that's how it is. Right. And I still kind of refer to it that way, but it's a job. It's a business. Right. The whole NFL, each team is a business in itself, and that's how it is. So the transition of less of a sport and more of a profession is definitely something that caught me a little off guard.
Yeah, and it's like you said, you're still young into the career of going into your third year. Obviously starting with a boom, going into a Super Bowl winning season your first year, making it to the Super Bowl the second year. When it comes to jumping locker rooms, I know it's a common question that you get. How is it being in a locker room with big names like Patrick, like the host of the tight ends and the running back? How is that like when you're just one with them?
Yeah, it's pretty cool. There's a lot of, especially when you first get there, there's a lot of the starstruck moments, and it's interesting because the guys are, I mean, Pat's a year older than me.
Right.
So these guys, it is interesting. Some of the guys, Matt Moore's, I think 36 or 37. So there's a big age gap for some guys. But it was cool once I, became comfortable in the locker room and realized that they're all normal guys. They're just incredibly talented at what they do.
Right.
They're big names, they're big faces and all that, but on the day-to-day basis, they're just a regular guy. They're showing up to work.
Bingo.
Pat's really the first one there every day, the last one to leave. And
right.
It's cool just being around all that. I would say the one starstruck moment that really hit me was when we signed Tyrone Suggs the end of my rookie year.
Okay.
I had done pretty good with Pat and Trav and Tyron, all these guys who are superstars. Yeah. But when Suggs, when I saw him in the locker room, I was like, this guy started playing in the NFL before I started playing football. So I was like, I went through my year at the Burros,
right,
7 years with the Falcons,
right,
Lincoln Way East, Illinois, my first season in the Chiefs, and this guy's still playing in the NFL. That
Bingo.
blew my mind.
Yeah.
So seeing a guy like that, wow, that's somebody to look up to,
right.
for sure.
Well, and what's super interesting with that is because that's how when you made it to that level and then I came back and started the practice here, that's kind of how we got back together, because you realize, holy cow, guys that make it this far in the league, they're doing something with their bodies to do it that long, right?
Yeah,
and
I mean,
how has that kind of been your initiative to say, oh, I got to do something now versus start it when I'm feeling X, Y, and Z?
Yeah, there's very, very few that are able to just naturally be that talented. But so many guys, you see that the ones that play 8 years, 10 years, 12 down, plus that, they have just routines.
Yep.
Not everyone has to do the same thing, but just you continue to learn about your body.
Right.
Guys that have been in the league for 4, 5, 6 years, really they stop squatting after squatting for 26 years or whatever. They've been squatting forever.
Yes.
And now they realize, what? There's other ways to strengthen my body.
Right.
There's other ways to get healthy before I strengthen my body. And that was really when I started working with you. I remember when I saw your video posted on the cars that you do every day, and I was like, I had seen something about that.
Well, it was Olin, right?
Yeah. So I worked with Olin a little bit, and we just did shoulder cars. That was his shoulder and a little bit of hip.
Yep.
And then I saw your video. I think there was 11 when you posted that video, and I've learned that there's
way more
even than that. And that was something that it was hard for me to realize, but every just 20 minutes every day of non-sweaty hard workouts have been huge for my body. I think we've seen it, but just gains that I've made, staying healthy, strength, speed, just movement. I mean, it's been awesome doing that stuff.
Well, yeah, and to this day, people still ask me hey, what is kind of Nicky's training looking like? And what you even tell everybody, it's not. You look at it, you're not going to be overly impressed, right?
Yeah.
It's just going to be more of making sure, because once you make it to that level, it's not necessarily how much stronger I need to get or how much faster I need to get. It's how can I maintain this self, but also continue to get a little bit better at those weaknesses that you might have found out throughout the year.
Exactly. I feel like I don't want to say there's a cap on human performance, but once I got to squatting 500 pounds in college, I knew if I wanted to play 10 more years, the goal wasn't to get to 800 pounds. I don't need that.
You're not a powerlifter.
So it was how do I maintain that strength
Bingo.
with healthy joints.
Right.
So it's been huge.
Yeah, and when it comes to that level of joint training, it's just more of how do I make sure, because remember, muscles just move joints, right? So I have muscles that surround all these different areas, but if that joint at the minute level doesn't move well, we're always going to feel a little bit of tightness there, a little bit of weirdness there. So what we did with Nick's training is just said, hey, let's make sure that the foundational things in his body move well, and then as he continues to layer strength with the squatting or with the lunging and the pushing and the pressing, that all of that stuff now is encapsulated around a healthy foundation. Right?
Yeah, and I think that's one thing that I really enjoy just from, sometimes it's frustrating, but working with you, it's that when something feels tight or it feels, I don't know, just there's something that just doesn't feel right, you're always kind of pinpoint onto it, and sometimes like, damn it.
Yeah. No, you're okay.
But like, can I just be sore and want to hurt right now?
Right.
But you always have a thing that's like, all right, well, now we got to work this today. We're going to put something extra into it, because there's always a way to make that part better. Obviously, there's extenuating circumstances, there's serious injuries, but little things here and there, there's always a way, rather than just sitting and resting, there's always a way to make it better actively.
And that's one of the things that we've learned with the more modern age way of treating in medicine, is that you're only really resting when you got something really bad or really acute, right? Like, oh, I just blew up my ankle. I need that thing to rest for a week before I start doing something. Or I just got surgery. I need to rest this thing. But if we got minor aches and pains and just kind of things that don't feel right, it's typically movement in a certain way that makes us feel better a lot faster. So, all right, we'll pair it off of that. When it comes into now, again, I want to go back to more of this NFL life, because it's new to you, and I think that's all the questions that people ask you about. But what is it like? Okay, you've been on 2 Super Bowl fields. This last one, it's obviously a little bit more true to heart to you because you were playing in it, and it was like, holy cow, I'm here. What was it like being, or going from first game last 2 years ago to now your most previous game playing in NFL Super Bowl?
I think one of the coolest parts to me, especially this year with less fans, everything was a little more vocal. You could hear everything a little better. But like I said earlier, how football has become more of a job, more of an occupation.
Right.
At the grassroots of it, when you're playing, you're not watching film with the coach. You're not doing walkthroughs. You're not training, lifting, doing all the joint stuff. It's like, there's still 3 hours a week where you get to play football. And that's what I love. It's like the game isn't fully gone. There's, 60 hours a week of other stuff that's required at this point.
Right.
But like for the 3 hours of it, you just get to play football like you're over at Main Park, you're over at East.
Yeah.
And like that part is still, it's giving me chills right now saying it, but it's like, it's pretty cool that the game is still football.
Right.
It's changed year by year differently, but it's still the sport that I grew up playing when I was 5 till now, and that I loved.
Oh, and I think that's what truly allows guys like you to make it there, because that appreciation for the game is there. It's not, oh, I have to do this, or I got to do this. And that goes all the way into you in the weight room and into your body work at home. It's like, I get the opportunity to do this so I can get better at these other things. And I think with mentalities like that, it allows that stage to be way more appreciable versus, oh, I just got to do this, right?
Yeah, the whole get to versus got to mentality is it's relevant in everything, and that's something that I've told myself. If I ever get to the point where obviously there's days where I'm like, man, I really don't want to go to the stadium right now.
Heck yeah.
But if there's ever days where it feels like it's a thing, I gotta go play football.
Right.
I'll move on.
Yeah.
If football's too hard to not enjoy it,
right, at
least for a good portion of the week. So that's my kind of cue that whenever it's a drag, I'll hang it up. But right now, I love the sport. I couldn't ask to do anything better. It's a game still.
And it's the thing that I think you can bring that into an everyday person's life is, whether you're waking up for a workout, there's always going to be workouts you just don't want to go to. Or whether you work like me as a physician in here, or you're an accountant downtown, or you're like your dad traveling across the entire. There's still times where he doesn't want to probably do some of those, but it's that realization of, I'm going to do it because I know the appreciation when I zoom out and look at the big picture, right?
Yeah, so, big picture. There's just so many other things in life that are open through doing this. Just so many cool opportunities that I've had. So. I've loved it so far. Hopefully continue to do it for as long as I can.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I'll continue to be here every offseason.
Right.
Make sure I stay in the field as long as possible. So
we keep you healthy.
It's been a lot of fun.
Last thing we talk about this all the time when it comes into habits, and this is just something that I'm going to ask every guest that I have on the podcast is, what are 2 or 3 habits that you find yourself over the last, let's say 8, maybe 10 years that maybe you weren't thinking of them as habits back then, but now you're maybe thinking, hey, this is maybe what I've stacked every single day, a month, and a year end that allows me to get here. What are 2 or 3 habits that you find that have been important to you over the years to get you where you're at?
One, I think, is being well-rounded. depending on it depends what level you're at, but if you're high school or below, if you have the ability, play more than one sport.
Yep.
Never, and not even just more than one sport. I was 2/3 throughout high school.
Mm-hmm.
Be involved in the community.
Yep.
Take care of academics, because you learn things at different areas. Have hobbies. I'm a coin collector, and
Coin guy Gretty on Instagram, by the way.
but just like continue to grow yourself, not just like, oh, I want to be a professional football player. I'm going to get better at football. I mean, 7 months or 5-6 months out of the year, I don't work on football.
Right.
I'm working on my body, which
gets you better at
football.
Mm-hmm.
So that's one of the things. Just continue to work on not only the main craft, but everything else that you want to work on in life.
Bingo. What about more maybe within these last couple of years that is something that you have attributed to something that you do on more of a daily basis? Because now that we got a fiance too on the back end, it's just more than maybe just personal me. It could be something that you've done with your family or more with her. Always
take time to decompress. That's something that, if it is, you're going out to dinner with my fiance, obviously pre-COVID, couldn't do a lot this year, but going out to dinner, or just, we became big Netflix guys this year. And
I think a lot of people have.
Yeah, exactly. But like investing ourselves into a show and making that our thing, or again, back to coins. Coins is my complete decompression. That's my selfish thing. I do it myself. So like just doing things that help you turn off finances, education, sports. Just turn that off for an hour a day, 30 minutes a day if you have it.
Right.
And just
be present.
Totally, be present in the life that you're, appreciative to be in right there. And that's something that's been huge, because the life you live, you're going nonstop. If you don't stop to breathe, you're gonna look back and what happened over the last 10 years.
Absolutely.
So that's kind of where, we've both been fortunate to see our dads and our moms and our families do that and learn from them. But that's one of the things. Just appreciate how fortunate we are, in whatever situations we're in, and I think those two things have been big for me.
Yeah, and like you said, even at your highest possible NFL level, you have the ability to zoom out and say, okay, what do I have outside of that? Because I always give, when I talk to young high school athletes possibly going to a school to play at college, I always say, choose the college that, God forbid, you break you do something to your knee, or you break something in your spine, and their sport is over. Now, how are you? Do you enjoy that school even without athletics being there? And that can just get broadened out to life, as in, okay, how am I if NFL gets taken away, or how am I if for some reason I can never work in this profession again? Do I still have those family connections or friend connections or other hobbies that I still have put time into? So.
Yeah, I think that just there's guys that they don't broaden themselves, so when the game is taken from them, they kind of get lost, and that was when I went to Illinois. I really committed to their accounting program. And then just
did pretty well in that too.
Yeah, I family genes didn't have an option not to do well there, but it was like if football ended, I was going to be in the program I wanted to be in at a great university, so I'd be okay. So just there's a lot more to life than one thing. Right. There's so many different aspects, so enjoy them all. Right. Appreciate them all.
It's awesome. Well, Nick, I can't thank you enough for being, again, the first and the Go Ready host that I cannot be more spot on for this type of situation, because, again, a true community MVP when it comes to Frankfort, because it's someone that has grown up through here and always comes back with everyone on their shoulders, because he's always the first one. We were walking the trail the other day, and people were coming up and saying, "Oh, it's not often you could see a Super Bowl champ." And he stood there, and we talked with people, and it's awesome to see you continue to come back and give to the Frankfort community. And everyone's rooting for you year by year and game by game. And I don't think anyone has watched an offensive lineman play football more than you. I still think you talk to people, and they're like, "Yeah, I don't even know how the rest of the offense do it. I just watch Nick." So.
Yeah, no, it's been fun. Obviously, an incredible community to grow up and still be a part of.
Yeah.
So, I want to do anything I can to give back, obviously, while you came, open up here.
Right.
So, no, it's been a blast.
Awesome. My man.
Absolutely.
Appreciate you.